The First French Empire, also known as the French Republic, had an emperor who shook the entire world. This emperor is well known for his military ventures all around Europe. The name of this emperor is Napoleon Bonaparte. Hello and welcome to the History Channel. Today we're going to talk about one of the most successful generals and emperors in the history of mankind. Napoleon Bonaparte changed the war tactics of his time and was able to achieve great success. Napoleon Bonaparte was born on the island of Corsica on August 15, 1769. He was born to an Italian noble family. Napoleon's parents joined the Corsican resistance and fought against the French to maintain independence. Napoleon had more possibilities to learn than the average Corsican of the period due to his aristocratic and fairly wealthy upbringing. At the age of 9, he moved to the French mainland. Napoleon attended 3 different institutions for his education: Autun for a brief period, Brienne Military College for 5 years, and the Military Academy in Paris for 1 year. In February 1785, during Napoleon's year in Paris, his father passed away from stomach cancer, putting his family in a difficult situation. Napoleon, who wasn't the eldest son, became the family's head before he was 16 years old. After earning his degree in September 1785, Bonaparte joined the La Ferraille Artillery Regiment as a second lieutenant. Napoleon joined the French army but supported the French Revolution in 1789. At the age of 24, he was promoted to brigadier general. He was then put in charge of the artillery of France's Army of Italy. Bonaparte had backed the Directory and served it as its trusted counsel on military affairs when the Directory took over control of the nation in 1795. At the age of 26, on March 9, 1796, he wed Josephine de Beauharnais, a widow. He assumed control of the Italian army's operations in 1796 and turned the once malnourished and unhappy army into a potent fighting force. The French Revolution's social, political, and military aspects paved the way for Bonaparte's rise to power. He would not have made captain, let alone colonel, if French society's inherited standards had not been upended by revolution. Although the notion of dividing armies into divisions and corps existed before the revolution, Bonaparte was able to improve the corps system's effectiveness. He accomplished this through decentralized maneuvering and concentrated command. Bonaparte was able to improve the pace of movement, lower the speed of employment in battle, and reduce the cost of logistic support by moving the corps separately, yet within supporting range. Bonaparte created an excellent team capable of managing the flow of communication between the many aspects and effectively controlling them. These new corps were constituted as combined arms formations, including horse, infantry, and artillery as components. The corps worked successfully, both as distinct groups and in coordination, due to their organization and supporting staff. Napoleon Bonaparte was a key figure in the formation of modern warfare. He elevated warfare from a relatively small-scale restricted battle waged by poorly trained conscripts and a handful of mercenaries to a worldwide, fully industrialized, total war. 3 French armies were supposed to enter the battle from 3 different directions, but the Directory neglected to supply the armies. The commanders of the armies could not comply with the plans. This endangered the entire offensive. Napoleon got the command of the southernmost army in Italy. By this time, Napoleon was not at all tested regarding his command. Yet, he was destined to the situation in the favor of the French. Before Napoleon took command of the army, The French army in Italy was reduced to less than its half due to no support from the government. The army was also stuck in the northern Alps of Italy at the time and was in pathetic condition. More than two-thirds of these troops were spread out nearly 200 miles along the Mediterranean coast from the French city of Marseille to the small town of Voltri, 9 miles from the important port of Genoa, Italy. The French forces were dispersed to feed themselves off the local countryside and to protect their vulnerable coastline and coastal roads against British and Sardinian naval raids. The hope for glory had died as things were getting difficult for the army. It was about to collapse. When Napoleon came to take command of the army, the generals, who were of more age and experience, neglected his command. His appointment was seen as a result of his political connections by them. Napoleon reorganizes the disrupted troops. He also improves the management of the supply system of the army. Napoleon creates a new offensive plan, which he had been working on for the past 2 years. His vision was strong and managed everything well for the plans, but he had to take some action as soon as possible before things start getting out of hand again. At the start of the campaign, Bonaparte's primary goal was to divide the Austrian and Sardinian troops in anticipation that the latter's loss would compel them to retreat to their capital, Turin. Thus, to defend Milan and their lines of communication, the Austrians would have to move away from them and toward the east. The distinction between Bonaparte and other commanders who saw the benefits of similar situations was in his unwavering resolve to generate a favorable chance for assault. He possessed a rare capacity to determine the ways by which a successful attack could be launched. Napoleon was first confronted by 2 armies, one Austrian and one Piedmontese. They would have outnumbered Napoleon if they had been unified, but they were hostile to one another and did not. Piedmont was displeased with this involvement, and Napoleon vowed to defeat it first. He fought fast, switching from one adversary to the next, and forced Piedmont to withdraw from the war totally by pushing them on a huge retreat, weakening their resolve to continue, and signing the Treaty of Cherasco. The Austrians fled, and Napoleon controlled Lombardy less than a month after landing in Italy. Napoleon crossed the Po in early May to pursue an Austrian force, defeating their rear guard in the Battle of Lodi when the French charged a well-defended bridgehead. Despite the fact that it was a fight that might have been avoided if Napoleon had waited just a few days for the Austrian withdrawal to continue, it did wonders for Napoleon's reputation. Napoleon then conquered Milan and created a republican government. The effect on the army's morale was significant, but it was possibly much larger on Napoleon. He began to feel he could achieve extraordinary things. Lodi is seen as the beginning of Napoleon's ascension. Napoleon had now surrounded Mantua, but the German portion of the French campaign had not yet begun. Thus, Napoleon had to call a halt. He spent his time threatening the rest of Italy's cash and submissions. So far, around 60 million francs in cash, gold, and diamonds had been gathered. Conquerors were equally interested in art, whereas rebellions had to be put down. Then, a fresh Austrian army, led by Wurmser, marched forth to confront Napoleon, but he was once again able to exploit a fragmented force. Wurmser led 18,000 men under one subordinate and 24,000 men himself to victory in various conflicts. In September, Wurmser launched another offensive, but Napoleon flanked and destroyed him before Wurmser was able to combine any of his forces with the defenders of Mantua. Arcola witnessed Napoleon raise a flag and lead an offensive, restoring his reputation for personal bravery, if not personal safety. In early 1797, the Austrians tried again but failed to save Mantua. In mid-January, Napoleon won the Battle of Rivoli, having the Austrians and pushing them into Tyrol. Wormser and Mantua surrendered in February 1797. Their army was decimated by sickness. Napoleon had taken control of northern Italy. The Pope was now persuaded to pay off Napoleon. Napoleon chose to invade Austria after obtaining troops, but he was met with resistance from Archduke Charles. Napoleon, on the other hand, was able to push him back. He decided to propose conditions after coming within 60 miles of the enemy city, Vienna. The Austrians had been dealt a tremendous blow, and Napoleon realized he was far from home. The discussions continued, but Napoleon was not finished. He conquered the Republic of Genoa, which became the Ligurian Republic. He also took a piece of Venice. In the late fall of 1797, peace would be restored to Europe after 5 years of conflict between the French Republic and the First Coalition. A peace agreement between France and Austria, putting an end to the Italian campaign. After 5 months of peace talks, Napoleon Bonaparte, speaking for the French Republic, and Count Ludwig von Cobenzl, speaking for the Austrian Empire, signed the Treaty of Campo Formio. Lombardy was given to the Cisalpine Republic, while Austria was to accept French rule of the Ionian Islands, including Corfu. Italian territory east of the Adige River was given to Austria in exchange. Austria consented to French possession on the left bank of the Rhine, according to a covert provision in the treaty. Despite ending Napoleon's war in Italy, altering the landscape of Europe, founding new governments, and making Napoleon famous, the Peace of Campo Formio was not a lasting nor permanent peace. The Franco-Austrian peace discussions that led up to the signing of the Treaty of Campo Formio were not an easy procedure. The peace talks between the warring nations would drag on for months without producing any significant results, just like all peace conferences throughout history. There were a number of factors that contributed to the lengthy peace negotiations. Due to rumors that a royalist plot to overthrow the French government was in the works, the Austrians purposefully put off the essential peace discussions. Perhaps the Austrians believed that a royalist coup in France would benefit them by resulting in more lenient terms of peace. In June 1797, the French apprehended a royalist spy in Trieste and collected documents implicating General Charles Pichegru, one of France's most prominent commanders and president of the Council of 500, the lower chamber of the Directory, in the conspiracy. Another reason for the delay in striking a deal was that Austrian Emperor representatives purposely dragged down the peace negotiations for petty reasons. Such was the account of the circumstances that brought the Italian campaign to an end. Napoleon eventually delivered peace to Europe after several months of delay. Italy was no longer the same. New republican states, like those in Venice, replaced the old autocratic ones. Despite its volatility, the Peace of Campo Formio put Europe on the verge of the New World Order. In the Italian campaign, the French overcame overwhelming odds to claim one of history's most important wins. Bonaparte's troops took 150,000 prisoners, 540 guns, and 170 standards during the Italian War. Through the use of superior artillery and Bonaparte's strategies, the French army engaged in 67 engagements and won 18 decisive encounters. Bonaparte gained more clout in French politics throughout the campaign. Napoleon returned to Paris after the treaty was signed as both a hero and a great general. The Italian campaign marked the beginning of a century of Napoleonic warfare, and it was a watershed moment in the advancement of operational and tactical warfare techniques. It is where Napoleon's ascension began, and for these reasons alone, the Italian campaign deserves a position among history's greatest military successes. Thank you for watching our video. If you enjoyed the video, please like it and subscribe to our channel for further upcoming videos. Hit the notification button so that you get notified of our new videos.